By providence, our boss paired me with another Christian brother, which we worked together quite often. We were in a completely dark room in another plant at Pike Motor Division, other than lights over the table we were working off from, a marble table. We were facing each other, and out of the peripheral vision to my right, I turned, and two angels hovering to my right in gleaming white robes and wearing masks like the sport of fencing would do, and hovering off the floor for 8 inches off the floor. And I'm asking, well, why are they wearing masks? And they said that because of protecting our eyes, that we'd be blinded, otherwise it'd be like looking into the sun. And I asked them why they were there. And the reply was through telepathy that they were there when I was born, and they will be when I'm called home, they'll be there. And I asked them, will that be today? And they vanished. So that was the first experience of having two angels to see and one always in the back to interpret the meaning. I think he wanted us to see how real angels are. And when I was turned around to face him, of course, becoming paralyzed, couldn't speak. After this was all over, I turned and wanted to ask him if he had seen them, but no voice. I couldn't ask him if he'd seen them. I still don't know today if he's seen them or not. So a few years went by. I never did get the answer why they were hovering off the floor. So a few years later, woke up in bed at 2:30 in the morning with 3 baby blankets hovering over my body. And each blanket had 100 scintillating, flashing lights. And I asked, that's what woke me up, all those lights. And I asked, why are all these lights? And the angel said, well, these 3 blankets represent 3 churches that are praying for you. And each of those lights is a person praying for your complete recovery. And these churches, one was in North Carolina at Camp Lejeune. Another one was in South Carolina, Beaufort. And the other one was from a local church where you were attending. And then they were gone and vanished. And again, being paralyzed, it took me a few minutes to be able to move and look around to see if this is for real. So that was the second incident of the angel. This is the third incident. I was being poisoned by a Dr. Fada and ended up in the hospital seriously ill. Had IVs in my arm, oxygen up my nose, all kinds of apparatus, heart monitors on, and for 3 days and 3 nights going without food and going without sleep. Around 2:30 in that morning, I just cried out to God to either heal me or take me home. At that moment, an angel got under each of my shoulders and my arms and started taking me up. And we were heading for a big 10-ton steel I-beam, and I began bracing myself for impact and went right through it. Now, these 2 angels had a sense of humor because I heard them over say, they said, did you see the look on his face? Let's take him through again. But we're going up, up, up through all the spheres, the atmosphere, the hemisphere, the ionosphere, planets going by. And I started getting second thoughts. What is my wife going to do in mowing the grass and in the wintertime plowing the driveway? My concern was for her. And it was like a rubber band snapping in and back into my body. And then 3 doctors at the foot of the bed asked, do you want to go home? And each encounter I had with angels, I could not speak. All I could do was shake my head, yes. And then they got together and sent me home. But for a year, I could not talk about these instances at all. I could talk about electrical engineering. I could talk about quantum geothermodynamics. I could talk about cars. Could not talk about these angels. So that was the end of these 3 stories of the encounters with the angels. So the reason why they were there was simply to let me know they were there when I was born, and they will be there when I'm called home. So God has his way why I cannot explain. This is hard to believe too, probably, because I still get wisps of them turning or getting somewhere. You see this flash go by, a wisp of those angels still letting you know that they're still here. So with that happening, it's an encouragement to know that when they leave, they're really not leaving. They're simply going back to invisible. It's really astonishing. The big question that I ask myself, why me, Lord? You've heard people are hurting or being in a situation, they say, why me, Lord? Well, my question is, why am I chosen to see these angels 3 times, 3 different times? Always 3 of them. 3 is a significant number as the Trinity, and God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent everywhere at the same time. So why are some chosen to have this personal, visible relationship with angels and others are not? I've talked to a couple of pastors, even Pastor Wine, and they always think, well, I would think, why not pastors or missionaries have this privilege? And, I don't feel like I'm worthy of this really happening. I think about this one man in the Bible who was wrestling with an angel. You've probably heard of him. And he wanted to be blessed, and he's not going to let the angel go until he gets the blessing. Well, he got a blessing, but it cost him a bum hip. So, sometimes we get what we ask for, but we don't know if there's a price to it. I talk about quite often about vicissitudes. And vicissitudes is this. There is no Christian out of a few hundred of talking to in this lifetime I've had of saying they have soared from being totally ignorant of the Bible and soared on up to heavenly heights all at one time. It's step-by-step process. And sometimes we fall and we have to ask God's forgiveness, but it's another 2 steps up. And each time we learn and we get closer and closer to God. And that's what I would say about my life it was not a taking off in that Mach speed going up. It's something we would like to do, but it's a process of falling, gaining and falling, but each time you gain more than you fall. And each time you get closer to Christ. And realize that he's not just a babe in a manger. That's all I knew about around Christmas time growing up. I was 22 years old before I was really realized this is no babe I'm talking to. This is a real man, really the Son of God, grown man. And all I have ever heard of was a babe in a manger. No one ever told me about Jesus being a man and that he's here for our salvation, to keep us out of hell, to give us a glorious life ahead and believing in him. He's the key. He said in his word, no one comes to the Father but through me. So I'm totally in belief that Jesus is the way, believing in him. So many people they may believe in other gods, or they may believe in other religions, but Jesus makes it real plain that no one comes to the Father but except through him. So these other religions out, you cannot count on them. I would say to at least read the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments, because that's telling man what not to do, to make it right, to get a right relationship with Jesus. If people are ignorant, ignorance can be fixed, but not stupidity. So we really need to be told. I had to learn, because I was totally ignorant. And did we really have a God anyway? As a young boy, attended Sunday school for every week for a year, and they gave me a Bible, but nobody told me how to read it. I opened that Bible up and looked at the word Genesis and some of these people, and I said, this doesn't make sense to me. If someone would explain, about Jesus Christ and his miracles, that he was here, he was born here, and he grew up and to be a preacher, a rabbi, and he taught people the right way to live instead of our ignorant ways. Well, when we learn, we get wise. The more we learn about God, the more wiser we get.